Why does Mahadev have a form where he is in the body form? Then there is a form in which he is in the form of a linga. Then why is there a third form which is just Nirgun Nirakar, just Om, or just the light? So Mahadev has been so kind that he has given us all options. He has made it very, very easy. That hey, if you are able to concentrate, meditate on Om. If you have a problem with concentration, you can, propitiate me in the form of a Shivalinga. Hello and namaste, and thank you so much for visiting my channel. My name is Karthik Gaur, and please do subscribe and click the bell icon to ensure that whenever we upload a webinar or a video, you are the first ones to know. Thank you so much. Hey, welcome everybody, and the topic for today is something which was a best kept secret of our tradition for a lot of years. And today we are going to talk about the Dwadashadityas, rather the Jyotirlingas, sorry. And we are going to understand how does that Jyotirlinga help you to achieve your goals in your life, or the missions, or everything that your Atmakaraka or your soul always wanted to achieve. And how do you basically decipher what is your Jyotirlinga? Okay, and what does that Jyotirlinga do? So those were all questions, whenever I used to, at a very, very initial stage of my career, whenever I used to hear about the Jyotirlingas, I used to always question myself that, hey, there are 12 signs of a horoscope and there are 12 Jyotirlingas, you know. There are Navagrahas and Lagna, and there are the Dasha Avtaras of Vishnu. So I'm sure that there is a secret associated with the Jyotirlingas, as a result of which there are 12 Jyotirlingas and not 11 or not 13. As you know by now that in Jyotish, everything is very logical. There is a reason, there is a method to the madness, as they say. And we are going to understand the whole concept of Dwadash Jyotirlinga, and more importantly, how are you going to find your Jyotirlinga, and what are the ways by which you can actually decipher, and then can you do a certain mantra, or can you do certain remedies, as a result of which your life becomes much more easier to handle. We all go through a lot of processes, we all go through a lot of stress, and at times we are very confused in terms of which remedy works for us, which mantra works for us. But this Jyotirlinga remedy is like one size fits all. If you know your Jyotirlinga, then frankly speaking, just stick to that remedy for daily basis, and it is going to help you a lot, and it is going to help you in more ways than one. And how, we are going to talk about today. Okay, so this is a beautiful picture that I have shared of Nandi, looking at the Jyotirlinga. And a lot of times I have seen my students, message me that Guruji, we have bought a nice Jyotirlinga. Where can I get the Nandi from? Which is the best direction to keep the Nandi on? And I always say that, hey, aren't you the Nandi? You are supposed to be the Nandi, especially for home. You can keep a Nandi, that's a different concept. But the important thing is that you are the one looking at the Jyotirlinga every day. You are the one, you are looking at the Shivalinga every day. So technically, you form that concept of Shiva's follower, which is Nandi, and you are the one who is going to pray to the Shivalinga every day, going to take care of it. Nandi being there is ensuring that Mahadev is being catered to, he is getting what he wants. Likewise, whenever we have a Shivalinga in our house, it is very important for us to take the least sort of a care, at least. And the least care, or the basic caring, is to ensure that you at least, do an Abhisheka, give a bath, clean up the Shivalinga every day. Because if you're not doing that, then frankly, you aren't supposed to keep it in your temple, or it is a Shivalinga which probably can have more of a sort of an artifact value, or something that you're using for probably your decor or whatever it is. But you can't say that you are doing your Shiva pujas. You can't say you have a Shivalinga in your home till the time you have established it, and till the time you are doing the pujas every day. Okay, and you are the Nandi. Always remember, whenever you have a Shivalinga in home, frankly speaking, you become the Nandi. You are the one who is going to take care of him, like a son would take care of his father, like somebody who would take care of the guest, like somebody who would take care of their senior family member, so to say. And the least of it, again I repeat, is cleaning the Shivalinga daily. It is almost like cleaning your sins. It is almost like ensuring that you are feeling mentally good because you have cleaned up the Shivalinga. And you will understand with this particular video in terms of how clarity, or how much of a clarity you will get in terms of understanding the concept of Shivalinga, and ultimately finding out your own Shivalinga just in a matter of an hour. So hold on and let us start the journey. Okay, so as usual, I always, as a project manager, like to sort of give you the expectations part of it, right? What can you expect from the session? We are going to understand the Jyotirlinga as a basic concept. Okay, the Jyotirlinga association with the horoscope. Okay, so which sign is associated with which Jyotirlinga is something that I'm going to talk about today as well. And then ultimately, how do you find your Jyotirlinga? There are certain rules to follow. We are going to talk about the rules, we are going to do example charts, and ultimately, we are also going to talk about your own Jyotirlinga. Okay, and by the end of the session or by end of today, you have to actually draw your chart, and give me an example and understanding in the comment section in terms of how did you decipher or how did you come to that understanding of this is your Jyotirlinga. Okay, now what does the Jyotirlinga do? I've just given here a compass, and there's a famous proverb which is used, that you need to know what is your true north. And a Jyotirlinga has the ability to actually show you your true north. It almost complements your Atmakaraka to achieve the things that you have promised Brahma before you were born. I always say that, consider a situation like in today's time. You have an HR, which takes your interview, right? And maybe there are 2 rounds, 3 rounds, whatever it is. So, similarly, let us understand that Lord Brahma in his creation department also has an HR department, which is going to talk to you and is going to show you all your karmic factory. And we have talked about what is the karma in the previous videos. You can check it out. And the HR department is going to talk to us that, hey, these are the bad karmas you have, these are the good karmas you have. And we say that, hey, give me a chance, give me a human birth. I'm going to ensure that I'm going to clean up my act. I'm going to ensure that all those negative things which I did, I'm going to work towards it, and I'm going to end up doing better. So just like a sales guy, we are born with a certain target, and that target is seen from our Atmakaraka, planet which gains the highest degree. And that particular planet is going to ask us questions on a daily basis. And we are supposed to be answerable. And there is, to a large extent, Chitragupta, who is taking care of your day-to-day account and is doing a backup of your karma every day evening. That, hey, what did you do? You told us you will be good to your wife, but you aren't. Hey, you told that you are going to do this, but you aren't doing it. Hey, you told us to do that. Oh, fantastic, you are doing that. You understand? So on daily basis, there is an Excel sheet or there is a backup which is being restored. And a lot of time, because that memory of our HR interview is lost, we completely forget our true north, or the karma for which we are born, or understand the why of your existence. There's a great speaker called Simon Sinek, and Simon Sinek talks about the concept of why of your business or why of your product. Rather than what you sell, tell me why you sell. And that is a direct lift off from the concept of Swami Vivekananda, who talked about the concept of why, and I told that, the day you come to know why you are born is frankly the day you are born. Hence, this whole search of who am I? Why am I born? What is the mission of my life? He is nowadays picking up so much of importance, especially in the West. You see, so many people are meditating, so many people are getting into ISKCON, so many people are getting in love with Shiva. Why? Because of that whole search of why. That there is a Jyotirlinga within me. What is it? And we are going to talk about it today. Okay, so hold on and share all your comments as well. Keep it coming, and it is very important for us to motivate each other, right? Now, what is a Shivalinga? Shivalinga is nothing but the one who is upholding your Panchadevtas. Now, a lot of times I've seen even the Hindus or even the learned people who say that, hey, there are 33 crore Devtas, and 1 crore is 10 million. So, you can say that and multiply by that, almost 330 million Devtas, which itself is wrong. In reality, there are only 33 Devtas, which we'll talk about at some point of time. But among them, the most important are the Panchadevtas. Okay. And the Panchadevtas are associated with your Panchanga. So now you know that the Panchanga of the day or the Muhurta for the day is so important because it is technically going to tell you how the Panchadevtas are functioning, how the Panchapranas are functioning, how is those 5 fingers, are they having enough strength to give it a punch, or is it too weak even to, put a fist together? Are you able to punch above your weight? Are you not able to even punch below your weight? You see sometimes in the boxing ring or a gym trainer who is training somebody for boxing, and you see a strong man or a strong woman, but when they are punching, it is so weak that we feel, oh my goodness, we thought that this guy or girl was strong, but not able to even punch. Whereas you might feel that somebody is very very slim and probably this guy has no muscle or no sort of strength, but the moment that guy hits, it is like a thud sound, which means that, oh my goodness, this guy has a lot of strength. Probably the panchapranas and the pranas and the panchangas are so strong that they are going to able to hit it very very hard. So you understand, I'm giving you a simple example to understand how important it is to at least do the Panchadevata Puja. And all the Panchadevatas are in the Shivalinga. I'm not going to bifurcate which part of Shivalinga is all about it, but how do we decipher? See, Panchadevatas, here I've given you the list, are Ganesha, Surya, Durga, or generally Devi, followed by Vishnu, and then finally Shiva. So technically every day morning we are supposed to do this Panchadevata Puja in this order, and always starting with Guru. See, Guru is not even counted here because we always start with Om Gurave Namah. He is always there, above there. If you talk about all the chakras, there is a chakra over here just above your head, and then there are chakras over there. One of them is called Guru Chakra, and it is over there that the aura or your Guru is residing. Hence he is always first, and after that we go with always Prathama Devta, and they are all actually associated with the Panchanga also, where Ganesha is associated with Prithvi, Surya is associated with Agni, Jala, Akash and Vayu, like that. So the moment we are actually having a white Shivalinga, see, I always tell those of you who have consulted me, know that I always said that, hey, keep a white marble Shivalinga for home. Don't keep black. The temples always will have black. Why? Because in a temple, you are going actually to remove your sins. Whereas at home, you are keeping the Shivalinga for prosperity, and hence you use the white Shivalinga and not the black Shivalinga. Okay, so that is the primary difference. Also, the black Shivalinga has got lot more sort of rituals to be done, because it is almost like you have to be a pujari, you have to be a priest, which we are not. So let us always take options which are realistic to the today's world, and also very realistic and important or relevant to our aims in life. If we are in sansara, if we are sort of associated with our day-to-day life, we would rather take logical things that we want to do. What is the whole concept of becoming a priest when frankly speaking you are not? you know because the methods, the life of a priest is not easy. You have to give up on a lot of things, and that might not be possible, at least not possible when you try to do immediately one fine day. There is a gradual progression. There is a certain amount of vairagya, or disassociation, or you know feeling that I've had enough, and then you sort of start withdrawing. Once that withdrawal symptoms start, that's the time to actually shift to a black shivalinga, but not as of now. Okay, another tip that I can give you is for a home shivalinga. This is called as yoni. If you understand, the whole concept of shivalinga is the concept of creation. you know the concept of a yoni, and the concept of it is a union of male and female, if you understand. Okay, and particularly this part, the is associated with Devi. The top part is more of a spiritual part, okay, of a shivalinga. So whenever you offer shivalinga, or a bel patta, or you offer flowers over here, to that level you are getting more spiritual. But it is this part which is all about your finances. So whenever you are doing a rudra abhishek, etc., you know try to focus on this particular part as well, because this is the area of prosperity. Okay, hence we always offer chandana, at this part of the shivalinga. We always offer kumkum, which we offer to the Devi in this part of shivalinga. And we offer belpatta or flowers at the top of the shivalinga. Okay, so these are the basic things. You can also keep a shri yantra below it, which is the seat to Shiva. And then later on you can also keep a surya yantra below it, which is the seat to the shri yantra. And that is the magic actually of having this complete set of a surya yantra, shri yantra, and then the marble shivalinga technically associated with Somnath. And that is a perfect sort of a thing that you should have. Okay, so what I meant to say is Shiva is the Parameshti Guru, and a lot of you who are never associated with Jyotish, or probably this was your first sort of an interaction, or the first sort of an association with any sort of a Jyotish course or Jyotish learning, by now you have realized that, my goodness, this knowledge is so deep. We always thought that knowledge was all about this sade sati, and you have kala sarpa, put the coconut 3 times over your head, or feed the fishes. Somebody will say, oh, your Saturn is very bad, give food to a dog, and then find a dog which is black in color. All these funny things you must have heard. And a lot of you might have thought that, hey, this is Jyotish. And that's the reason, to a large extent, a lot of people get disassociated, or they look at Jyotish with a little bit of prejudice, so to say. But when they understand that, hey, Jyotish works at this level, and Jyotish is so logical, because everything these guys say, there is always a logic to the argument. And that's how you understand that, hey, ultimately, the one that is your biggest wealth is your knowledge. Is your association with your guru, is your association with your lineage, is your association with the Parameshti Guru, which is ultimately Mahadev. You need to understand that within gods, they don't have ego. The problem is, we start fighting for our gods. And I've heard this commonly, a person who is sort of a Vishnu worshipper, suddenly feels that, hey, I can't pray to Shiva. Why? Because, the person who is from my group, he said that no, this should not be done. Excuse me. Valbhacharya, you're trying to say that you're bigger than Lord Krishna himself, who made Somnath temple, or who prayed at Somnath Jyotirling. You're trying to say that you're smarter than Valbhacharya, the giver of the tradition of the Sampradaya, Pushti Marg, as they say, I think, right? Are you smarter than Sri Ram, who made Rameshwaram? Similarly, are you trying to say that the one who is in fact a worshipper of Shiva is not going to respect Krishna? Excuse me. He is the Yuga Avatar. You don't pray to Krishna in this birth, frankly speaking, it is impossible to get moksha. Believe me. You need that Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, when you reach there. In spite of all your Shiva bhaktis, you need that Dvadashakshari. And it is written by none other than Vedavyasa. The signature mantra of Vedavyasa is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. But Panchakshari Om Namah Shivaya was given by the Shankaracharya himself. And Shankaracharya prayed to Vishnu as well. So are you supposed to tell me that Shankaracharya, as an ardent worshipper of Mahadev, didn't love Mahadev and started praying to Krishna? What are they trying to say? That, hey, we have no problem. Why the hell do you have a problem? And you need to understand that at a very, very advanced level, because, a lot of time, people start having this prejudice. They in fact start fighting for their God, and God doesn't need your help, frankly. He absolutely doesn't need your help. And I'm talking about even inter-religion. They don't need your support to fight with anybody and to prove that your God is better than his God, which is, to me, absolute stupidity. Especially to comment on things which you don't understand. So why talk about certain things, which you don't understand? It only exposes your stupidity, nothing else. Okay. A lot of times I have heard that, see, Krishna in Kali Yuga is toughest to understand. And I'm sure the Krishna worshippers will understand and will agree to that. A lot of times people don't even know the concept of Radha. And if they don't know actually who is Radha, they feel that actually it is his girlfriend, and it is laughable. The concept of Gopi, the concept of Radha, people have to actually love Krishna to that level to actually one day before they die understand how beautiful or what beautiful concept it is. You have to understand the importance of Shiva, or the importance of, hey, I truly have no expectations to understand why Shiva can meditate in a smashana, or where dead people, or crematorium. The only God you can see even in a crematorium is Mahadev. The one that even the ghosts pray to for getting moksha is Mahadev. The one who is going to take all your poison and drink it and digest it is the Nilakantha. So are you trying to tell me that, hey, if you are a Shiva worshipper, you should never look at Krishna, and if you are a Krishna worshipper, you should not look at Shiva? The concept of Shivalinga breaks all that myth. The concept of Vishnu breaks the whole myth. Because why else, would the Shivalinga have that highest of, understanding, where all the Panchadevatas are associated with the Shivalinga? So for a student, for a Jyotish student, I would say that hey, you need to have a Shivalinga. You know, have a small one. Ideally, the top part. Uh, the this part. Shouldn't be more than your thumb. Okay, especially for home. You know, so if you're going to take a Shivalinga, this top part should actually not be too much bigger than your thumb, and that is called as also your Atmalinga. You can actually wear it as a pendant also. Not the marble Shivalinga, but what I mean to say is you can make a Shivalinga and wear it as a chain as well, in your gold chain. I'm actually working on a project with somebody, where I can make this nice Shivalingas, and because it is so tough to get these things. There is a lot of hard work which requires. There is a lot of interest you need to show. But once you make, at least the other generations and other people will benefit a lot. So I'm working on those few projects. I'm working on that concept of Surya Yantra, where a fantastic Rudra Abhishek can be done, and Shiva can actually be on that uh, Surya Yantra. Maybe in a couple of months I should be ready. In a month's time, actually. You know. So those are the things which are very important. So we need to understand that he is the Parmeshti Guru, and there's no Guru which is higher than Shiva, frankly speaking. Okay, and it is very important. If you are prohibited for any reason, you can do your Manas Puja. A lot of time people don't understand, and ask me that, hey, if I'm traveling and I've been doing certain puja, what do I do? And I say that, hey, I travel a lot, I always do Manas Puja, which you can do it in a plane as well, which you can actually sit down and just close your eyes and think that you are doing the Rudra Abhisheka. You can do all the steps that you naturally do at home, and that is called as Manas Puja. And frankly speaking, the Manas offering is even higher than the physical offering, because physically maybe possibly you are thinking about 50 things, and does Mahadev even care, if you have given him a 5 rupee sort of a garland or a 50 rupee garland? All it matters is, with what heart have you given it to him? And that is something which is very important. Hence, Manas Puja is even higher than your physical puja. And that's why meditation becomes so important. That's why that visualization becomes so important. Especially during these times of lockdown, etc. So many times I've heard people that, oh, I'm feeling so bad, my Shivlinga doesn't have the Belapatta, I'm not able to do this, I'm not able to find the flowers, I'm not able to do this, do that because of the lockdown. Why would you have the concept of Nirgun Nirakar? See, the concept of Advaita and Vaida are things, that you need to think about a lot. Why does Mahadev have a form where he is in the body form? Then there is a form in which he is in the form of a linga. Then why is there a third form which is just Nirgun Nirakar, just Om, or just the light? So Mahadev has been so kind that he has given us all options. He has made it very, very easy. That hey, if you are able to concentrate, meditate on Om. If you have a problem with concentration, you can propitiate me in the form of a Shivalinga. If you still are obsessed with a form and you need to see a form, then I'm there in the form of Mahadev as well. So all these three options are there, and who can give it more than the kindest of all, and the Bholenath, as we say, other than Mahadev. Okay, so I'm very obsessed with Mahadev. So I'm sorry if I'm getting too emotional with it, but the fact of the matter is, as a student of Jyotish, you need to at some point of time understand the importance of a Shivalinga, importance of praying to Mahadev, or at least doing one mala of a Panchakshari. Ideally, by now you know the process. If it is Om Namah Shivaya, then there are 3 words, you need to do 3 malas at least. Okay, so with this, we will move a little ahead. And let us understand the Jyotirlingas associated with it. And this is a chart which is called as the South Indian chart. Okay. And let us understand. So you by now know that South Indian charts moves like this. Okay. And let us start with Aries. See, in below I have written all the names in English, for those who are English speaking and don't understand the Sanskrit or the Hindi part of it. Okay. Aries is associated with a Jyotirlinga called Rameshwaram. It is the exaltation of Surya. Okay. Whereas Taurus is associated with a Jyotirlinga called Somnatha. And with every Jyotirling, when you are making notes, you need to write the simple Nama mantras for every Jyotirling. You go. Om Namah Shivaya, Namah. Simple. Om Namah Shivaya, Rameshwaraya. Om Namah Shivaya, Somanathaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Nageshwaraya. Like that. Okay. The one which is associated with Taurus, which is the exaltation of moon, and so many times, even in the video where we were discussing about Sri Chandra, I talked about the importance of Somnath Jyotirling. And it is in the state where I belong to, or the place where I belong to. It is Gujarat. And that is one of also the main reason why Gujarat is a very prosperous state. Because of the Somnath Jyotirling. And Somnath is associated with a lot of prosperity. That white Shivalinga that I always keep talking about, the exaltation of moon, people feel very stable in Somnath. And so many times I've heard whoever I have sent to Somnath, they go there and they say that, oh my goodness, there's something to do with that Somnath Jyotirling, that vibe in the temple. The moment we enter the temple, we feel so good. We don't want to go out of the temple. We sat there for 1 hour, Karthik. Why? Because even Chandra, who is the fastest moving planet, got some stability in Somnath. That is where, he sort of was got the space on the Jata of Shiva. If you see the crescent moon on the right hand side, if you see the picture of Shiva, there is this crescent moon. You know the problem why he came there, right? The whole concept of Chaturdashi Amavasya and the kidnapping of Matara. You can look at my YouTube and specifically go to this video on the Tithi. There I have talked about this Chaturdashi and everything. Okay. The third one of Gemini is Nageshwara. Now a lot of time people confuse this with the space, and a lot of people feel that it is in Gujarat. The fact of the matter is it is not in Gujarat. It is in the place where we have done our own where I have learned my Jyotish. It is somewhere in very close to this Uttarakhand region. Okay, and it is not in Gujarat. Okay, because it is Darukavana. It is in the jungle, and it was there. It was not in Gujarat. Okay, a lot of people feel that Somnath and Nageshwara are very close to each other. No doubt, if you go there, visit the temple over there as well. It is around 5 kilometers from there. But rest assured, that is not the original Nageshwara. Okay, the one in Cancer is Omkareshwara. Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about related to Nageshwara, this is the place where Rahu gets exalted. So whenever you're going through Rahu problems, you can also visit Nageshwara apart from Tirupati Balaji. Okay, and what I mean to say is I'm also giving you a free tip of understanding when you are going through a problem related to sign or a planet, you can still pick up that particular Jyotirlinga to ensure that planet is also good. See, sometimes the problem becomes because of the sign, or let's say there are 2 malefics in a particular house. Okay, then what happens that it is almost like you have rented your house to a gangster. Now the gangster is not either going to pay you, not only not going to pay you, it is also not going to vacate your apartment. So what has happened is your apartment or your investment is completely gone for a toss. So the problem over there is also because of those two planets, the sign has been damaged. So in that cases, you can use this sign sort of Jyotirlingas to actually do remedies. So if the problem is with Aries, then you can do Rameshwaram. Or let's say your Raj Yogas are in Aries, then you can visit Rameshwaram and do a Rudrabhishek there. Okay, slowly you will understand. See, the whole thing about Jyotish, especially for people who are starting very recently, it opens up over a period of time. This is not a knowledge which you can just open the book in, and by the time you read the book, the whole book you have understood. No, Jyotish is a very gradual process. It works, there is no method or not a perfectly, there is no perfect math whereby you can say that by what time you will learn Jyotish. And hence, when somebody asks me that, hey, how long does it take to learn Jyotish? Frankly speaking, I don't know. Hey, will I be able to do prediction after this? I don't know. Will I be able to do XYZ or whatever it is? Frankly speaking, is I don't know till the time I have either seen your chart or I see your commitment. There can be one student who can do exceedingly well in 2 months, and the other student for 20 years, he's not even able to understand the 12 houses properly. You understand? So there is a lot that goes into it. The one in the Cancer sign is Omkareshwara. Okay, a beautiful Jyotirlinga. Omkareshwara is a beautiful Jyotirlinga. So when it comes to your home environment, something related to home, not finding peace, Omkareshwara is a beautiful Jyotirling to do mantras on or to meditate on. Okay. The one in the Leo is Baidyanath, the one who is the top sort of a physician or a top doctor or a top Vaidya, the one who is going to help you through your medical problems is Baba Vaidyanath. That is how they commonly denote them as. And that is associated with our fifth house, Leo, associated with our digestion, kidney, the whole root to a lot of our major problems associated with stomach. Okay, the one in Virgo is Mallikarjuna. Okay, and that is also a beautiful Jyotirling. And the one in Tula is Mahakaleshwara. Okay, a lot of you must have heard about Mahakaleshwar, Jain, and that is where they do Bhasma Arti. So all that Bhasma, and that Bhasma comes from the neighboring cemetery where somebody has died and somebody has been burned. So they use that Bhasma as well for the Arti, and they say that Mahadev is going to ensure that the person is going to be in good hands. So every Jyotirling, frankly speaking, has a different way of doing Aarti, and that is associated with the reasoning why that particular Jyotirling is associated with that particular house. Okay, whereas in Scorpio, the debility of moon, there is a specific Jyotirling called as Grishneshwara. Okay, here it is written Grishnesha, but it is called as Grishneshwara. Grishneshwara Mahadev. Okay, whereas in Sagittarius is the Jyotirling which is my Jyotirling. It is Vishwanath, Kashi Vishwanath. Okay, it is in Uttar Pradesh. I had visited it just before the COVID period. For some reason, I got a dream and I woke up and spoke to a couple of my other students. They said that yes, we also want to come. We made a small group and then we went to Kashi Vishwanath and we got one of the best darshans. I was so lucky that we were called at 2 a.m. in the morning, 2:30 rather in the morning. We went to the temple. They showed the whole process of how the Shiva Puja is actually done. This all by the main priest. And then at 4 o'clock, 4:30, that main puja happens. We were there. After that, we went to the next temple. One that is next to it. We did the whole Rudra Abhishek over there. And we were there for 2 days, both Chaturdashi and Amavasya. And then we did Abhishek on both days with the bhojana for sadhus and everything. It was such a beautiful experience. And we came back, and after 15, 20 days, this COVID thing started. And by God's grace, I would say that I have been completely protected by the Jyotirlinga. My work is not affected. In fact, my work has gone up. I've been able to help everybody. There is a lot of peace in my life. I am not agitated in this sort of a very, very panicky mood otherwise. So that Jyotirlinga gives you a very, very different sort of a strength to actually face every problem with a lot of confidence. Okay. And sometimes it happens by chance. And what you feel by chance is actually happening because your stars are pushing you towards that. Okay. And I'll tell you why I'm Kashi Vishwanath. You will understand when you understand how to. By the end of this session, you are able to decipher your Jyotirling. And the one in the 10th house is Bhima Shankara. Bhima Shankara again is not in Maharashtra. I know a lot of people feel that this Bhima Shankara Jyotirling is in Maharashtra, but no, the real Jyotirling they say is in Assam. But because it becomes easier, then they use this Gujarat Nageshwara, this Bhima Shankara in Maharashtra to ensure that the tours and travel guys can actually make a nice sort of a Jyotirling trip, and you will feel happy. But all the other Jyotirlings, there is absolutely no confusion at all. Okay, the one in the Aquarius is Kedarnath. Okay, you know that it is Aquarius again in the mountains, right? So reaching Kedarnath is not easy. And the one in Pisces, the exaltation of Shukra, is Trayambaka, Trambakeshwara rather. Okay, so all your marriage issues, if you are feeling some problems related to relationship, etc., then going to Trambakeshwar is superb. Just sit there, do a remedy over there. Also, a lot of Kalasarpa Puja or Kalamrita Puja are good to be done in Trambakeshwara as well. A lot of times you have to pick up the axis of Kalasarpa where it is happening or Kalamrita where it is happening. Okay, likewise you have to understand. So what I wanted to also tell is, see, a lot of your generic remedies also you can do from there. Okay, specifically, let's say you are having a problem with your work, or you are not able to have the energy to work. See, sometimes what happens is we tend to procrastinate, right? A lot of work which we were supposed to do 10 days back, is still pending because the moment we start working nowadays, we will start watching TV, we are listening to music, we are watching to YouTube, and somewhere down the line, the work which was to done for that day, even 25% of that work we can't do. Whereas there are certain people who overachieve. They complete all their work by 2 p.m. and by 2 p.m. they are doing work which they are actually doing tomorrow. They are supposed to do tomorrow. So what is the difference? Difference is focus and that energy level. And that 10th house is Bhima Shankara. So even if, let's say, your pronunciation is not good, even if you don't do mantras, etc., when you feel little lethargy, you can keep saying Bhima Shankara, Bhima Shankara, Bhima Shankara, Bhima Shankara, Bhima Shankara, Bhima Shankara. And suddenly you will see that just by, chanting Bhima Shankara, repeating the word of Jyotirlinga, you will start feeling very, very good about it. You're feeling very agitated, you're feeling very disturbed at a mental level. Just keep saying Somanatha, 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 Somanatha. Sometimes you look at the planet, sometimes you look at the house. Okay, so that has to be a little bit of a judgment thing. But I have given you a great remedy of understanding how to decipher a Jyotirlinga. What are the 12 Jyotirlingas associated with the 12 Rashis or the 12 houses? And actually, it is more with 12 Rashis. Okay, a lot of time people might feel, is Lagna Rameshwaram or is Aries Rameshwaram? Then the answer is Aries is Rameshwaram. Okay, and not Lagna. Okay, so by now you have understood it. Now let us understood How do you find your Jyotirlinga? Very, very important. And it is very simple. Frankly speaking, even if you are doing it for the first time, it is not going to be a rocket science. Now let us understand it in simple steps. For example, let's say I am Aries Lagna. Okay, I'm Aries Lagna, and my Lagna Lord is Mars, because Aries is lorded by Mars, and I've got Mangal in the third house. Okay, so what I need to do is there are simple steps by which first I need to find out my Aruda Lagna. Okay, Aruda Lagna is your mirror image. I'm not getting into it and what it is it. We are going to do it at a later stage. Okay, in the part 2 of the whole thing. Okay, so first and foremost, I need to find from my Lagna where is my Lagna Lord. So it has gone to third house. So we'll count the houses 1, 2, 3, and from there you have to count as many houses, which is 1, 2, 3. So my Aruda Lagna will be in Leo. Okay, now this is a very important step, that you all know what is your Lagna. You all must know where your Lagna Lord is going, and then find out where your Aruda Lagna is going. Okay, the second part is where is your moon. In my case, my moon is also in the third house with my Lagnesh. Okay, now what are the steps? I need to find out the houses which are in Kendra to moon. So my moon is in a dual sign, so all the Kendra houses will also be dual houses, which is Gemini, which is Virgo, which is Sagittarius, and Meena Rashi, Pisces. Now let us find out my Aruda Lagna. You remember my Aruda Lagna was in Leo. Now I need to find the trines to Aruda Lagna, which is houses 1, 5, and 9. So I have got this Leo, I have got this Sagittarius, and then I've got this Aries, which are in trines to this Leo, right? 1, 5, and 9. Is there any common sign between the both? We talked about the Kendras to moon was Sagittarius, and trines to Aruda Lagna is also Sagittarius. So Sagittarius becomes my Jyotirlinga, which is Kashi Vishwanath. Okay, it's very simple. Without going, you can read these steps. Okay, now the only thing is there is an exception. Okay, and the exception is that your Aruda Lagna cannot be in 1-7 houses, which I will teach you the exception rule in when I talk about Sri Ram's horoscope. Okay, for example, you have to always understand that 1 and 7 from every Aruda is the Satyapita, which means it is a fact. Satyapita is Satya, and Aruda Lagna is not Satya, it is a perceived image. I always talk about that Aruda Lagna is almost like your mirror image. When you see yourself in a mirror, it is you, but not exactly you. Depending on the lighting, you can either appear to be fairer than you are, or if the lighting is weak, you can look browner or darker than you are. You understand? So that mirror image or that Satyapita is very important. In that cases, you jump to 10th there. Sorry. In those cases, you shift to the 10th therefrom. I know for a lot of new people, this will be very, very confusing. But once you go through the concepts, once you go through the example charts, you will be able to understand. Okay. For example, let us understand if this Lagna Lord Mangal, let's say it was in the 4th house. Okay. Then what do? You count from the Lagna to Mangal 1, 2, 3, and 4, because Mangal is in the 4th house. And then you count as many houses 1, 2, 3, 4. So Aruda Lagna comes in the 7th house, but it is in 1-7 axis. So it can't be in the 7th house. Then you have to shift 10th therefrom. So 10th house from the 7th house would be the 4th house. So the Aruda Lagna will be the 4th house. Okay, one more example I'll give you. Let's say Lagna Lord is in the 7th house. Okay, let's say this Mangal was in the 7th house. So we count 7 houses from there, which will come to Lagna. Now again, Lagna in 7th house, it cannot be associated with Aruda Lagna. In that case, you count 10th from the Lagna, which is the 10th house. So when Lagna Lord is in the 7th house, your Arudha will come to the 10th house. When Lagna Lord is in the 4th house, then technically your Arudha should go into the 7th house, but no, it comes to the 4th house again. That is called as shifting of Arudha. And there is, to that level, there is a little instability when Lagna Lord is in the 4th house or Lagna Lord is in the 7th house. Your image is constantly fluctuating. Okay, so we are not going to talk about it in detail. In future, definitely we are going to talk about it. But by now, I think you are very, very clear about it. Or for example, let's say Lagna Lord is in the 10th house. Okay, if Lagna Lord, let's say Mangal is in the 10th house, then 10th from the 10th house is 7th house. Okay, and then you shift 10th from here, again the Arudha Lagna goes into the 4th house. This is a little practice. I want you all to draw this chart and write down all the exceptions. This is how I used to learn. So I'll start with Lagna Lord in Lagna, what happens? Then what happens when Lagna Lord is in the 2nd house? What happens when Lagna Lord is in the 3rd house? So on and so forth. Okay? Now, let us take few example charts. Okay? To start off with Shri Krishna and why he established Somnath. So let us understand the first concept of where his Arudha is. What are the steps? We need to look at the trines to Arudha Lagna and Kendra to Moon. Always remember that. Okay. So first and foremost, we look at Chandra. Okay. Chandra is in Taurus, in Lagna. Very good. And all the Kendra houses are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius. I have given here. Okay. Houses Kendra to Moon are this: Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Moon is in Taurus itself. Okay. Now let's look at the Arudha Lagna. You know, the Lagna Lord Venus is in the 3rd house. And from the example before, we have seen that when Lagna Lord is in the 3rd house, Arudha Lagna will be in the 5th house. Okay. So let us look at the trines to the Arudha Lagna. Arudha Lagna is in Virgo. The 5th therefrom is Capricorn. And the 9th from Virgo is Taurus. So we see that this sign Taurus is a common sign which is trines to Arudha Lagna and Kendra to Moon. And here we see Taurus is associated with a beautiful Jyotirlinga called Somnath, which was established by Shri Krishna. Okay, I've given you this beautiful picture. You need to visit Somnath once. It's a beautiful place. Especially all the Krishna worshippers. Break that myth if you have. You need to visit Mahadev over there. Okay, so it's very simple. So Shri Krishna established there, and Shri Krishna actually left his body in very close to Somnath as well. So those of you who visit Somnath can actually visit a place where he left his body as well. Then you can visit Dwarka, which is very close to there. So all these places, which are in the beautiful state of Gujarat. It is my state. I'm so proud of it. So you all should visit it, and I'm sure you got a little clarity in terms of Somnath. Now, let us take a little more complicated chart of Lord Shri Ram. Here we see Lagna Lord is in Lagna. Okay, so can your when Lagna Lord is in Lagna, Lagna Lord is Moon. Moon is already in Lagna. Okay, so can we actually sort of what happens when Lagna Lord is in Lagna? Arudha is over there, but Arudha cannot be in 1 and 7. So Arudha has to shift to the 10th house, right? So his Arudha Lagna will be in Aries with an exalted Surya. Now let us look at the Kendra to his Chandra, which is Cancer, which is Libra, Capricorn and Aries. We already know his Arudha Lagna now is in Aries. So the trines to that are Leo, Sagittarius and Aries itself. So Aries is a common sign which is in Kendra to the Moon and trines to the Arudha Lagna, and the Jyotirlinga associated is Rameshwaram. Okay, which is also shown below. And that is the reason why he established Rameshwaram. He did the pujas at Rameshwaram before going and fighting with Ravana. Okay, now what we are going to do is some of the homeworks that you need to do. Okay, please write it down, and I want you all to finish this in the time when you will get between part A and part B. Okay, we are going to build upon this, but what I wanted you to do before that is study all the 12 Jyotirlingas. You know, do your search. This is the part of research. This is a positive Rahu. That's why Rahu rules research, and that's a positive side of Rahu. He's intelligent because he does a lot of research. He's well aware, he's well informed. Okay, so I want you all to study the 12 Jyotirlingas, understand where it is, and there from the diagram, write down, why it is associated with a particular planet or a particular sign. What are the similarities between the sign and the Jyotirlingas? And from there, you can write down a list of remedies that, hey, if I have this problem, I can do this. If I've got this problem, I can do this. If I have a career problem, then I can pray to Bhima Shankara. If I have a relationship problem, I can do some Trambakeshwara mantra. Okay, it is very, very fascinating. See, this is how we have to develop. There is a level to which I, as your teacher, I, as your mentor, I, as your guru, can take you to. They always say that you can take the horse to the water, but ultimately the horse has to drink the water, right? So that hard work or that inquisitiveness or that positive side of a student is that it is always needing more and more of knowledge, and it is also going to search for knowledge. Okay, so find out all this, find out about your Jyotirlinga, and that you have to do it today. Okay, and I want you all to write in the comment section in terms of what is your basic horoscope, where is your Lagna Lord, based on the steps that I have shown you before. What are your Kendra houses to the moon? What are the Kendra houses or trines to your Aruda Lagna? Which sign is common, and hence, this is my Jyotirlinga. In a very, very short and sweet sort of a thing. Okay, and then do that. Those who don't have your chart, etc., work towards it. There are many free softwares which are available, and frankly speaking, by now you should at least have your Rashi chart with you. So at least the smaller exercises you can do, and you can at least tick mark that particular Jyotirlinga which you have to visit. At least that Jyotirlinga which is associated with your soul. It is so important to at least go there once in a lifetime and do a Rudrabhishek there. Okay, or have some association with that Jyotirlinga. Okay, and definitely experience, and then once you go there, also let me know your experience. Or a lot of times people have gone there. Those of you who don't understand Jyotish, I'm sure I'll get many comments where people will say that, hey, this is my Jyotirlinga, and during my tough times, by default I went there, and after that this things happened, that thing has happened, and I actually got out of that problem. What you felt happened by chance was actually predestined, or some good karmas which took you to there. In Hinduism, why do we touch the feet of a guru? Because that feet have traveled the right direction more often than your feet. Hence the feet rule Shani. Shani is your hard work. The 12th house, the house which has an ability to take you to moksha. So when we touch a guru's feet, or when we touch a knowledgeable person's feet, to that level, we are in fact doing pranam to the Shani, or the good work or the cutting of the Shani that they have done throughout their life based on their karmas and mantras. Hence, if you see in the olden days, the best sort of a diksha that was given was when the guru touches his feet on the head of the one that he is giving diksha to. That is ideally the best way of getting diksha, if you are lucky. Which technically means that guru is blessing you, that like I have traveled in the path of dharma, so shall you. But believe me, it's very tough to get such diksha. A lot of gurus in today's time don't know the importance of their feet. And very few who know will be very careful. They will not give such a diksha. You have to be extremely lucky. Some great punyas of your past birth, all accumulating for you to get such a diksha. Okay, but nonetheless, what we are going to do is we are going to go a one step closer to the Parmeshti Guru. The one who is above everybody else. Okay, so I want you all to share your experiences definitely, and it would be a very interesting thing, especially for those who have visited their Jyotirling, or those of you who are going to sort of know of their Jyotirling today and going to plan it once things settle down. Okay, and after you visit it, definitely share us with your whole concept. How did you feel? Are there any things that happened within 1 year of you visiting your Jyotirling? Okay, it would be a very, very interesting thing. Okay, so now this is your homework which you have to do. I'm going to end the recording, but what I want you all to start doing, and I'm going to be there, is start working on your chart and start telling me, which is your Jyotirling and what is the logic of your Jyotirling. Okay, so I'm going to give you sort of a nice sort of a break and work out. I'm going to give you a good 10-15 minutes, and start writing down in the comment section, and we will keep sort of discussing more about it. Okay, so it's been a wonderful session. A lot of you are hearing this for the first time, and believe me, this is a very, very powerful knowledge. It is going to help you throughout your life, and just find that one Jyotirling, and it is going to help you a lot. Okay, thanks a lot for your time. Namah Shivaya. Namaste Jyotisha lovers. Thank you so much for viewing the video. Please do share so more and more thirsty souls can benefit from this free knowledge which is being shared. Also do subscribe, click the bell icon, and all the questions that you have, please mention in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and please keep supporting us.